Thank you for joining us tonight, guys.
Mario.
Yes.
So there was an episode of Saturday Night Live a long time ago. It was Tina Fey back when she was talking about Donald Trump getting elected president, and she showed up with a sheet cake and said that you eat your feelings away. If there's something wrong, you just eat an entire sheet cake by yourself. And as she was describing things, it was escalating, right? So as she further described how you eat a sheet cake, it got to a point where she was taking a grilled cheese and dipping it in the sheet cake. That was halftime for me. I was at grilled cheese in the sheet cake by halftime.
I was not.
Yeah.
I was not, Paul. You know how I roll. Paul has watched games with me before.
Yeah.
And he almost has to poke me to realize that I'm not an oil painting at sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I have no control of what's going on. And apparently the Buffalo Bills coaching staff has no control over what's going on.
Oh, man. I was okay. I was really, I was still okay until the McKenzie fumble, right? Because you're looking at it, you're like, okay, Buffalo's going to get this possession at the end of the quarter. They're going to get the ball back at halftime. You can flip games of those last two possessions. Okay, yeah. This is okay. You haven't stopped them yet, but you could survive this right now, right? You can figure this out. You trust the defense, right? You could survive this. Now, when McKenzie dropped that ball and they got the ball and the 3, the 2, wherever it was, I was like, oh man, nope. The world was on fire for me then.
This is no bueno.
It was no bueno. Yeah. It was no bueno. But Mar, you walk away from this game. And I think it's always important to talk about the lessons, right?
Yeah, we try, as everyone knows that has watched us for long enough. We try to take an objective view. We don't get too high or too low. This was pretty low today.
Yeah, I'm pretty low right now.
And we'll try to decipher what it was, so you guys can go into work on Monday morning and be like, yeah, we figured it out. We know what happened. We watched these guys, and they gave us kind of a hint of what happened. There are some things to this game I can't describe. There are some things that I can literally just be like, excuse me. And then there's just some things where it's like, you know what? Indy came in here and punched you in the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the best description I can give to anything. Like, listen, you could talk about Brown and Feliciano being out on the offense. You could talk about Starr and Zimmer being out on the defense along with Tremaine Edmonds. Tremaine Edmonds definitely exposed that A.J. Klein is not your answer.
Yep.
But you literally got outplayed and outcoached today. Mm-hmm. And there's really thanks for watching, guys. See ya. That's what it was. That for the most part, it was you got completely outplayed and outcoached today.
Yeah, and I think you talk about what makes this defense good and speed at the linebacker position. You obviously take a step back without Tremaine Edmonds, and you have to be stout in the middle. That's where Buffalo was generating all their pass rush, was because they had been so stout up the pipe. And man, no Starr, yikes, right?
But you don't need Starr, right? He's overpaid, and you don't need him. And
I take back everything I said, man. I take it all back.
That's okay. You don't take back anything that you said about Jonathan Taylor.
No, I do not, man. I was beating the drum in all the pre-draft process a couple years ago. It's like, listen, I have a tendency to sip the running back Kool-Aid every few years, where I'm like in on a player, and it's always a running back. I don't know why.
In 1985. You've been an excellent football coach.
The last time I was so hot on a prospect, it was David Johnson, right? And everybody remembers his first 3 years. I was David Johnson in on Jonathan Taylor. Like, I was in. But whatever we needed to do.
Here's the craziest part. Paul will obviously reserve the objective side of it. You talked up Jonathan Taylor like crazy. You talked up David Johnson like crazy. You would tell me all these things that are great that David Johnson does. Mm-hmm. He's, this, the X, Y, Z. But then you would always have that little caveat at the end of it. But you know what? I don't think he's going to last because he can't run inside the tackles.
Mm-hmm. Right.
What can't David Johnson do? Run inside the tackles.
Yeah.
You were talking about Jonathan Taylor, and I looked up and I said, oh, he has 1,000 touches in 3 years of college, Paul.
I know.
What's going to be the wear and tear on this guy? Apparently these guys are different animals.
Mm-hmm.
We got a beast of a running back to face this Thursday. Trust the process comes in, and
Well,
I understand that. It's
yeah. I mean, this is a real tough one to swallow to have a quick turnaround. You know, like this is a tough one. Mar. So
yes,
as things went sideways today, right?
yes,
Things got progressively worse and worse. Buffalo basically made zero attempt to run the football at any point because they were down so quick, right? Like Buffalo was.
Is that the reason though? Let's just.
I mean, they don't run the ball very often anyway,
No.
but I really it got taken off the table early.
Like
this is what Buffalo does to other teams, right?
Uh-huh.
Is you score often enough to put pressure on them, right?
Yeah.
If you score back-to-back touchdowns, you're up 14. Now it's, put up or shut up time because the game's going to get out of hand real quick unless you respond.
Yes.
And, they scored on a lot of drives today, man. Like if Indy had the ball, they were going to score. That's what happened most of the day. And unfortunately, you saw Josh buy time in the pocket and push a pass and buy time in the pocket and push. And there were even things like the shovel pass to Knox, like Knox dropped. I'm not going to say the shovel pass was a drop because Josh could have easily just thrown it to Knox, but instead he shoveled it short.
Yeah.
But Knox dropped at least 3 passes today.
Mm-hmm.
He had a touchdown pass hit him in the face. He had a throw along the left hash that went just right through his hands. Right.
Yeah.
Like it was.
He
had 10 targets today
while getting pass interference. He caught one. Like
right.
It was just ridiculous. Like
Mar, I think you and I can both agree. If Dawson Knox has 10 targets on the day, things have gone horribly wrong. Right.
I would assume 2 receivers are injured.
Yeah. It was a tough one. No, it wasn't. And
Fred comes in. He says we need a better O-line depth next year, regardless of this year's outcome. I still think we make the playoffs, but O-line is our biggest liability.
Mm-hmm.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong,
Nope.
guys. I'll never tell you guys what to put in the chat or what not to put in the chat. That's not what this channel does. But talking about draft stuff already. I mean, this team is very Jekyll and Hyde, and I understand that. And by the way, since we're already 10 minutes in, thank you guys for joining the Hashtag Sports presentation of Buffalo Bills versus the Indianapolis Colts, where the Bills got mollywopped, as Paul said, 41-15. Exposing. Here's the thing for me, Paul. We're going to talk about a lot of things today. Good coaches have the ability to expose, and I want to say this. I want to be very deliberate with this. Good coaches have an ability to expose another team's weakness. Great coaches can expose your weakness while hiding their own.
Right.
Bills didn't do either today.
Nope.
No.
Sure didn't.
You went up against the team in their defense. Their defense was starting 2 backup safeties. And I didn't see seam routes. I didn't see posts. I didn't see anything of that nature all day. Right. That's 1. 2, your own weaknesses is the run. Mm-hmm. You have to try to hide that. They had no answer for. Put 8 in the box and make Carson Wentz beat you. Please, for the love of God. Now, you guys may say, you 2 yahoos that have a YouTube channel. These are professional coaches. I understand that. But that was not broached at all today. Nope. None of that happened. None of that facilitated. They had so much trust in the personnel that they had on the field that they tried to go with that. And after the first, the first touchdown, the first 2 touchdowns, where there was a 5-play drive and a 15-play drive, and Jonathan Taylor has like 70 yards at that point. Change something, please. Double A-gap blitz. Double, blitz off the edge. Do something. Do a twist or a stunt inside. Please, for the love of God, do something. And it was plain to see that they got outcoached. Yep. They got completely outcoached in every phase of the game. I mean, I don't want to put stuff on the referees, Paul, but we're going to talk about it. I don't want to put stuff on McKenzie, but we're going to talk about it. But you got physically beat up today. End of story. You got beat up. Yep.
Totally true. So I think, the book was out on Buffalo real early with the, with the back-to-back touchdowns. First one was 11 plays, 65 yards. Carson Wentz was 2 of 3 on 11 plays.
On 11 plays.
That's what I mean, right? Like it was.
That's not the telling number for me, though, Paul. That first
No.
drive, if you pulled it up, you know what the telling number is that? On that drive? Wait, let me look at it. Let me see if I get it correct because I want to get it correct. Okay. 11 plays, you said correct, right?
Yeah, 11 plays.
1 third down.
Yeah.
1.
Yeah, their first series. After that, it was boom, 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 boom.
First, second
they converted
down.
second and 14.
Yeah, right? It was,
yeah.
You were, I mean, the Bills have been known to have really good third down percentages. And maybe that's why it is. It's like you never get to third down.
Well, that's, oh man. So I think that brings up an interesting point, right? Because we've heard people talk all the time about Buffalo's run defense this year because they're ranked really high, right? In run defense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people put a lot of stock in rankings, right? I understand, right? I understand that. But let's just kind of backtrack a little bit and see at one point would teams have run the ball against Buffalo, right?
Yes. Sure.
You beat the Dolphins by 35.
They're not going to run the ball.
Yeah, you're not going to run the ball. You beat Washington by 22. They're not going to run the ball. You beat the Texans by 40. They're not running the ball. You beat the Chiefs by almost 20, and they just don't run the ball. Tennessee beat you. They run the football. That's fine. Miami scored 11 points on you, and they struggled to run the ball just anyway. The Jaguars scored 9 points on you, and they can barely get a full sideline of players that want to be there. The Jets you beat by 30. Like they're not going to run the football.
No.
Like it's what the Bills are good at doing is making teams throw more often. Micah Hyde said it last week. Like if we can make teams throw early, then we're going to win that football game, right? And that's why they were so highly ranked in run defense, because they put teams in positions where running the football just isn't an option, right? I think they were ranked number 2 against the run. That is such an aberration, right? It's such a mirage. It's a mirage. Yeah. It's not a real number, because the offense is plus 17 in turnovers when they win, and they're minus 7 in games that they lose. Like you cough the ball up in the games that, they're minus 7 in games that they lose, right?
How many times did they give it up today? 3, 4?
4.
4 times. How many times did Indy give it up?
0.
Let's give you 4 extra possessions on a team where, Paul, when the Buffalo Bills were receiving that kickoff with 2 minutes left. Let me go back to the play-by-play for a second. When they were receiving that ball with 2 minutes left. Okay. They're down 17-7, right? When they fumbled.
Yeah.
Do you know when they were receiving that kick? There was 2:12 left on the clock in the first half.
Yeah.
They had 2 possessions prior to that. Allen's pick and a touchdown drive.
Sure did. Yep.
Listen, if you didn't go into halftime saying, we need more possessions. Like Indy had 24 points at the half. 7 points you gifted them on that McKenzie fumble. I understand that.
Right.
But then they drove for 2 touchdowns and then kicked a field goal. 15 plays, 5 plays, 11 plays. You need to change something at halftime.
Yep.
And they didn't.
Spin brings up a great point. He says it's the first game all season the Bills have trailed at halftime. On Tailgate Talk, I just want to point out, Spin also said Jonathan Taylor would have less than 100 yards on the ground. It didn't happen so much, man.
No. And I don't blame Spin for that. I mean,
no. But we talked about it last postgame, Mar. If there are teams that were going to give you problems, it's 3 of the next 4 games. Indy has to run the football. New England has to run the football, and then you get New England on a comebacker later, because you get to play them twice real quick. Like this is a dangerous part of the season for you, because you're going against teams who are going to be able to do things well that you don't do well, right?
True.
Like
very true.
Even though you're ranked number 2 against the run, you're really not number 2 against the run. No. It's got to be a shootout. It's got to be a shootout.
Tyler comes in. He says, against these kinds of teams, our monotone philosophies on both sides of the ball start to be challenged. We do not adjust, and we don't come up with in-game correct style to win that matchup.
Yep.
Tyler, do you want a job at hashtag? No, but here's the thing. Okay. Number 1, I have questions, Paul. I have questions for you. Number 1, how big of an impact is Spencer Brown? Number one. Number two, how big of an impact of the combination of Spencer Brown and John Feliciano? Okay, that's two, because Butker got his lunch handed to him quite a bit today.
Yep.
Number three, the impact of Zimmer and Starr. Do they drastically change the outcome of today's game? I don't think so. I think that I almost said New England Patriots. The Indianapolis Colts are pushed to more third downs if Starr and Zimmer are in the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think. That all being said, offensively, how could you play against two backup safeties? Because everyone in hashtag knows my thought about the big uglies in the front.
Right.
The offensive defensive line. You don't win that, you're not winning the game. Don't care what else happens. You have two backup safeties that the Indianapolis Colts played today, and you don't challenge them at all.
Right.
You're throwing stuff underneath. Why?
Yep. And you know what, Mark? Carson Wentz completed 11 passes today. 11 for 106 yards. And they dropped a 40 burger on you. Right?
Because he didn't need to.
Right. He didn't have to do anything.
What was Tannehill's stats?
Buffalo, on the other hand, was really like your leading ball carrier was Matt Breida. He had 5 carries. Like it was an unbalanced game from the beginning. And then once it started raining, it just got worse because when Josh presses, we know what happens, right? He stays in the pocket a little too long. He starts throwing off his back foot again, like that underthrown pass to Knox, who I have no idea how he came up with that ball. Great catch, right?
Yeah, right.
But he threw that thing right off his back foot, just like the interception he had thrown, a drive or two before. And he starts throwing the ball 800 miles an hour because he starts pressing. And in the rain, that ball's going to sail, right? In the wind, that ball's going to sail. And it was just a bad combination, man. It was just a bad combo because Josh pressing in rain, he just tries to throw the thing 800 miles an hour.
It doesn't help. Okay,
no, it doesn't help at all.
We got a few things in the chat. First off, Beantown Breakdown. I fucking love you. Wellness check. I'm here if y'all need to talk.
I'd wish you a happy Thanksgiving, but I wouldn't mean it. We can be friends before 8 o'clock. Before 8 o'clock Eastern time. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Once 8 o'clock Eastern rolls around. Speaking
of Christmas gifts, Triggs wants one from you, apparently. Can we stop at this Moss Singletary experiment already? We should just start Breida. He brings more of an impact. Paul is definitely going to send you something. Maybe a gift basket, maybe edible arrangements. I'm not sure. Naveed comes in and says, Carson Wentz put up Jared Goff numbers. That is brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. I love it.
I do think it's important. Spin does bring up a good point. Singletary has been good, right?
Yes.
But Singletary he did have fumbling issues at the beginning of the season. But that aside, right? When you're talking about dynamic, he's just not dynamic, right? Like this team needs to score on a lot of offensive drives. And unfortunately, Singletary he's not somebody that's going to take it 60 yards, right? Like from the running back position, they use them so infrequently that you almost need a home run hitter at that position.
You do.
Right.
And Breida, he caught some speed up that sideline today before he got knocked out of bounds. And, with Singletary is – because, Paul, we've talked about this quite a bit. We talk about the first and second round draft picks that the Buffalo Bills have and who they acquire. They acquire horses that don't need any physical kind of manifestation. Singletary's not that guy.
Nope. Moss
is not that guy.
Nope.
So some of these guys that they draft in the later rounds, they have deficiencies, obviously. If you draft guys in the lower rounds, they're going to have deficiencies. Moss, Singletary, Epineza, certain guys that they take sometimes second round or lower are these lunch pail hard hat guys that can only do a certain amount of things in the game for you.
Right.
If they do things right, if they do things wrong, they don't have the athletic ability to make up for the things they do wrong.
Not to say they're not athletes. Just
no.
Comparatively, it's just not.
You try to compare a linebacker, the scale of AJ Klein to Tremaine Edmonds.
Right.
You're comparing two different animals.
Absolutely.
You compare Mitch Trubisky to Josh Allen, that's two different animals. You
Right.
compare Isaiah Hodges to Stephon Diggs, those are two different animals.
Right.
We're not saying that they're not great athletes and they can't get the job done. However, they have to do everything right in order for things to work.
Mm-hmm.
These freak athletes that they take in the first and second round sometimes, even though Epineza was a second rounder, they have to do everything to a T in order to be successful. And sometimes they're not.
There was a comment on the Tailgate Talk video. I'm going to pull it up to give credit where credit is due. I think I can tell you who it was. So Bull Moose had made a comment on the Tailgate Talk, which you can see every Friday at 7:30 with Mike and Tommy here on hashtag. But he made a comment that and it was obviously before the game. It was a comment similar to the need that, offensive line, it doesn't matter how good your offense, it doesn't matter how good your 7 receivers are if you don't have an offensive line. And he's 100% right.
110%.
100% right.
I'm putting that on a shirt.
Would you buy it at the hashtag merch store?
Do we still have a merch store? Yes, we do.
Yeah, we do.
Y'all don't buy anything. Nothing's been purchased from the hashtag.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
We don't care.
But but I think it's a fair point, right? Like
yes.
It doesn't matter how talented your wide receivers are. You got to protect your quarterback. And Josh had 2 rushes today, which again is very atypical for him, right? That's not a normal scenario.
The one he got to delay a game before he actually had the rush, unfortunately.
Right. Yep. And you hurt yourself. You had some holding penalties. You put yourself out of field goal range. In one drive, you had a false start by Ford, and then you had a holding penalty on the backside of that, and then you're 3rd and 18. Like, that's just stuff you can't do.
Yeah.
You have the roughing the passer on Mario Addison, which I don't really know if that's roughing the passer. I thought he got pushed in, but I'm going to be a little biased there. The Obata roughing the passer penalty, I don't know what that was. That Obata breathed on Wentz and he flew like LeBron and they dropped the flag, like it's
moving the chains before measuring a first down. Like,
oh my God.
You just mailing this stuff in, guys. Like,
I thought the education there was good though. Like Sarator explained that they have systems in place to make sure that stuff doesn't happen. And if it does, they can recreate where the chains were. But I mean, it's far from a perfect system. Like we're talking about an inch and, they're going out with this little card on a chain to a line that's painted an inch wide, and it's not a perfect system. It's just not a perfect system.
We gotta get DM Mag in here. DM Mag.
Yeah.
Cold weather with rain and wind equals ball compresses and hardens while wet, and it's much harder to catch. For today, anyhow,
It's harder to kick too. They temperature control the kicker balls though. They have them in a heater.
Yeah.
They have them in a temperature controlled heater. I'm not gonna get pissed at Tyler Bass for missing 2 field goals. You lost the game
not either. No,
30 points. I know,
right?
What's 6 points gonna do?
Oh, exactly. And the thing about it though is that I've never played at the NFL level. I can only go on my experiences from playing quarterback at my level. We had 3 footballs that we used. Mm-hmm. Okay, there was not a rotation of footballs that we had, and all this other stuff. They bring how many footballs to the game, and they do all this other stuff. Plus the fact that Wentz went 11 of 20 with the same type of footballs and the same type of weather. Like that's the thing that really gets me so upset with some of these people, because I heard some rumblings about like a dome. Mm-hmm. Indy plays in a dome. Mm-hmm. They beat the shit out of you today.
Sure did.
Sure did. They're more built for an outdoor setting. Indy's more built for an outdoor setting.
Well, yeah, they're a little more rough and tumble. Yeah, like
exactly. They are.
Your dome teams typically are teams that throw more often. Buffalo kind of, falls a little bit outside of that mold. But that's one of the reasons why you saw New England for years, they would throw the football at the beginning of the season. Then as the season went on, you'd see them run and run and run. Well, it's because they play in 20-degree weather.
Because they were taking the air out of the ball.
No, I mean, there's many ways to describe that, and all of them apparently are accurate. But
I'm done.
So I want to just complain for a moment, right? I want to go back to a topic that we talked about, and I just want to complain just for a moment. So at no point in my life was I more frustrated with anything than I was in the first half of that football game. I was physically like almost like upset. And I never get upset about stuff. I don't. But I was so mad because I just remember doing the draft coverage and I was screaming to anybody who would listen that Jonathan Taylor is a phenomenal running back. And there is in no universe. I remember a lot of our friends here were like, Paul, we don't need Jonathan Taylor. You got Devin Singletary. We just drafted him. He looks like he's going to work out. You don't need to do that. And I understand, right? I understand. But picture for me for a moment Jonathan Taylor and Josh Allen together. Just picture that for a moment, right? And the dynamic duo that would be.
I'm gonna start crying.
Now, on top of that, I want you to imagine that it only cost you trading AJ Epineza and Zach Moss. You can't tell me that the Bills weren't in on Jonathan Taylor because they drafted Zach Moss around behind him, right? So they were clearly in on running backs. But I was so upset because the combination of Allen and Taylor together like melts other teams' faces just off. It would just melt their face off. And that's what this team remains to be missing. And it's just frustrating to watch them kind of bargain basement shop in areas that you need. You need guards, but here they're bargain basement shopping for guards. You knew that you needed probably a little bit more of a dynamic player at running back, and you're still kind of bargain basement shopping for that. The NFL is not Big Lots, right? It's not fucking Big Lots. You go and you get starters and you get people that, you know, fill the needs that you have. And we see this team do that so often. And the long view of this is terrifying to me because at some point Josh gets expensive and you have to do this. And it's just not going. It's just frustrating.
Okay. All right. To give everyone a kind of a background. That was beautiful.
Thank
Paul.
you.
That was beautiful. You keep eating those Thin Mints. God, you're so fat. You're the fattest, skinniest guy I've ever met in my life. He could bowl a 300 and throw a no-hitter in the same day. That's how crazy this guy is.
Damn right.
And you know what? The world's not ready for this shit.
That's what happened. They had to shut me down early. The world wasn't ready for it.
Okay, so what Paul is referencing is that in the 2020 draft, the Buffalo Bills, you guys remember the 2020 draft very well, is when the Buffalo Bills traded the first round pick to Minnesota along with a 5th and a 6th in order to get the rights to Stephon Diggs. However, the 86th and 54th pick in those drafts were AJ Epineza and Zach Moss, respectively. Mm-hmm. Jonathan Taylor was taken 41st. What Paul is saying, and what has happened many times, if you decided to bundle 86 and 54, you get up to 41 if you wanted to. Yeah, you could have gotten up there. So that's what he's talking about. Would you trade AJ Epineza and Zach Moss for Jonathan Taylor? I think a lot of people would. However, a great counterpoint coming in from Matthias is that nothing happens with Taylor because Dable is the OC. I don't know if I want to completely hitch my wagon to that as far as that goes, because you could make that argument that he still wouldn't use the running backs. I mean, this is a guy that coached Rob Gronkowski for years, and they never used tight ends in Buffalo, until this year. Mm-hmm. So,
yep. Well, Mark,
real quick, we got to get Ross in here. Ross is a Patriot for DPN Ray. How you holding up, you table jumper? Pat's on top. The Patriots are on top. Ross, you are grandfathered into the hashtag nation. Thank you for your donation, and I'm holding up all right, man. I'm holding up all right.
So, Mark, I think we got to back into a conversation real quick because I just had a little diatribe, right? And I understand you could do that with any team, right? You could do that. You could do that with any team, but I think there's tendencies that you have as an organization, right? We saw them kind of, Beane's first couple seasons, they really didn't try to improve the wide receiver position. They went out and got Diggs to obviously make a statement. Because at the time you weren't getting free agents in Buffalo. Like, let's just be honest, you weren't signing free agents in Buffalo. Like, no receiver of reasonable name and reputation was coming to Buffalo. That's just what it was. Right?
Talking about the Diggs deal.
Okay. So I think it's important to talk. Like, you could put that conversation in a bubble And people will complain about Wyatt Teller and Diggs, and because you look at the needs now and you say it wasn't worth it, right? Or maybe it wasn't worth it. You look at how all that shifted out. But I don't think you could put stuff like that in a time capsule, right? You have to look at where you were as an organization at the time. But the wide receiver room itself is like watching how Beane handled that, and watching how Beane handled our offensive line, and watching how he's handling the secondary. It's like, it's all the same, right? It's all the same thing. You're not seeing, new assets challenging for positions. You're seeing like, these are who our starters are going to be. And then we're going to have other people here. God forbid our starters get hurt. It's just, there doesn't seem to be that cutthroat challenge across positions. It's like this team has decided who their starters are going to be, and everybody else is just depth. And I know you can look at like the Diggs deal and the Teller deal and just say, well, that doesn't fit our needs now. And you're right. It doesn't fit our needs now, kind of, right? But those deals at the time, I don't think you couldn't make them. Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy to think of that. It's like that deal was a monumental deal. And the thing that I wanted to look at really quick, because, everyone can hammer Beane. You can hammer this, that, and the third, and you can do all that stuff. I was just looking at the draft. One screen on here. You have T. Higgins taken before Chase Claypool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You have DeAndre Swift that was drafted before Jonathan Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
What? You look at some of these drafts that were these picks that were taken. These were high picks that people had. Antoine Winfield was taken before Trevon Diggs. Antoine Winfield has done well for himself in Tampa, but he was taken before Trevon Diggs is like, everyone wants to talk about. And, you start talking about, it's always singular to the team and what their needs are. It just depends on what their needs are. Mm-hmm. So you look at a lot of things. What did we say this even past draft ball? We said Atlanta needs to get out of 4, get a bunch of picks, get a bunch of players, build that team up. What do? They take Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
Okay. Generational type tight end. I understand that, but it's one player. Mm-hmm. You guys need a lot more than that with no draft capital. And that's the other thing too that's really big. Like, you start looking at these moves of who takes what. Raiders took Henry Ruggs at 12. Mm-hmm. He was the first wide receiver off the board. If you were to put Henry Ruggs, CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Reagor, Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins, Laviska Shenault, KJ Hamler, and Chase Claypool all next to each other, I think he comes near the bottom even before all this other nonsense that happened with him. Mm-hmm. So, that's just what happens with some of these guys. But Beane making that move for Stephon Diggs, you needed an older veteran guy to help him along,
right?
To help Allen along. And
then totally agree.
When his contract is up, it's up. Like, let's just say, for instance, let's just play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
The Bills don't trade that pick, which in turn they don't trade away Wyatt Teller,
right?
Because they did that, try to get ammunition to move up in the draft,
right?
You take Justin Jefferson. Mm-hmm. Justin Jefferson with John Brown. Does Allen have an MVP type season last year?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. John Brown, after he left Buffalo, has been on 3 teams.
He has.
Okay.
Justin Jefferson with Emmanuel Sanders this year. Are they a better team?
Oh man, I like Justin Jefferson a lot. I love Justin Jefferson. I think at the time, it made sense to me. Right? It still does. I think you needed to have somebody who was going to come in and run great routes and just be dependable, because you didn't have that, and you weren't going to get that on the free agent market. It wasn't going to happen.
No, so but I get it. It's an interesting topic to talk about, because how many times have we talked about it on this show specifically? Why am I on the side of the show? We've talked. I'm just moving around in my chair. We've talked about it many times in this show. Allen will forever be compared to Patrick Mahomes, because that's the draft pick that the Bills gave up in order to get the capital for the following year. More so than Baker, more so than Lamar, more so than
Darnold. Yep.
Yeah, Rosen. Let's not talk about it. The point is this: you gave up essentially now the 5th wideout on the board, Justin Jefferson, for Stephon Diggs.
Right. That's a
no
deal
one
you
has
make
made
every
that
day.
comparison yet.
That's a deal you make every day. You
Oh,
know,
I know
pre-draft,
you do. I know you
you
do
make every day.
because you had Diggs for 4 more years. He just signed his contract,
Right.
and they were trying to get rid of him.
Right.
I think both teams won in that, but the thing is Jefferson wasn't going to give you the type of experience that Allen needed at the time.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the fact that he's had that experience is amazing.
Right. And how does Jefferson develop when he's here? Right. Jefferson had Thielen on the opposite side of him, which is just tailor made for, we're going to give you some time to develop and go ahead and be an athlete and we'll work on it and figure it out. You bring Justin Jefferson and drop him into Buffalo with John Brown on the opposite side of that. No,
he's not the same player. I agree.
Yeah, it's just not going to work.
McChicken Vlogs comes in and says 9 mistakes were taken before Rosen.
Well, I think we should probably get back to the game a little bit, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
With all that being said, right? I think there's a large part of me that just continually gets frustrated with the Bills' lack of ability to do anything across the offensive line. With that being said, Josh did have enough time today to be, dangerous enough. So I don't really put this on the line because the line wasn't all that bad. He was sacked 1 time.
No,
I think Josh had a tendency to stick around in that pocket a little longer than he needed to. Right. That's where the fumble came from. Right. He stuck around a little bit longer than he needed to, because he thinks that he needs to throw for touchdowns. And at some point you just got to move the chains.
Yes.
And I know we've complained that sometimes Josh runs a little too much. Right. The risk of that is him staying in the pocket a little longer than he needs to. And I think he's probably staying in the pocket a little longer than he needs to right now. Right. And the routes that are being run just seem to get longer and longer and longer and longer. And there's just no help for, being down 14 points on the first 2 drives. Like there's just,
no.
What are you going to do?
You get I want to say that the Indianapolis Colts came in here better prepared to face the Buffalo Bills than the Bills came in to face the Colts. I mean, if that was your goal to run some longer routes to put pressure on that safeties, and Allen doesn't put the pressure on the safeties, I can't put this 100% on Dable. I really can't, because if Allen's not looking where Dable's calling those, but the one where he overthrew him, I think it was they even highlighted on the broadcast. Beasley was running a short hook route. Knox was running. You tell I've been watching the game. Knox was running a post. And then Sanders had the dig behind it. Wide open. Allen didn't hit him. That's not on Dable. That's not on Dable. He called the correct combination of routes that should have resulted in a first down. Allen did not hit it. I got a similar feeling today that I did in Jacksonville, where they just didn't show up.
Very different game, though, man.
Very different game, but I got a very similar feeling where you came out flat, undisciplined, and you played sloppy. Now, I know I said at the onset of the broadcast that you got punched in the mouth. That contributed to it, why it was 41-15 instead of 9-6.
Yeah.
And people tweeted this out today, and this is the thing that really hit me. You are now 1-3 against the worst division in the NFL.
Yep. Sure.
1-3.
Sure.
Are you kidding me?
Yep.
Losing by 3 and 20.
And you know what? You know what really grinds my gears, to quote Family Guy? Look at the Bills' losses, right? They're 6-4. Okay.
Yes. All 4.
Let's walk through those 4 losses, right? Pittsburgh. What division or what conference are they in?
AFC.
Okay. The Titans. What conference are they in?
AFC.
It's Jacksonville?
I think they're in the AFC still.
They
might be in London.
Are they in the AFC? Yeah, they are. Let's see here.
I think they're in the
Premier
League.
What about Indy? Is Indy in the AFC again? You talk about the games. You can't,
hold up. Is Jacksonville in the Premier League?
Yeah, they won the tournament to get in.
Yes, Indy, but you're like I said, obviously you're 1-3 against the AFC South, and you lost to Pittsburgh. And it's just you have 4 losses in the conference.
That's the stuff that
awful.
when you start to, I know it's a 17-game season, right? I know it's a longer season. I know that there's no room to panic right now. Steve Rose had said Tampa was 7-5 last year, right? That is a bit of an anomaly, right? But the fact of the matter is Bills are 6-4. Okay, right? You could still find a way to make this work. But when you're looking in the rear view, right? These are the games that hurt to have lost because at some point you're going to need a tiebreaker, right? Like you're
Unless you
losing
win the
too many
division.
games to not need tiebreakers.
You need to win the division. And you're second in your own division now.
Yep. And the team that is in first in your division, you get 2 out of the next 3 weeks. Or 2 out of the next 4 weeks.
You got to sweep them. You
Oh, you have to beat the Patriots both games.
If you lose to the Saints, you got to sweep the Patriots. You have to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And what have we said about this team when their backs are against the wall and they're not getting praised and touted? Mm-hmm. They happen to play better when that happens.
This was, I don't know about that, dude. Like, I get that they scored 6 points in Jacksonville and then they came out and, stomped the living piss out of the next team they played. But this was bad. This was bad. This was real bad because this is a playoff team.
This is inconsistent. This is an inconsistent team. This is a 500 team, Paul.
But in that division, they're a playoff team, man. So go look at the losses, right? Pittsburgh, Tennessee, Indy, right? Like you're looking at teams that are perennial playoff teams. Like, Pittsburgh's a perennial playoff team.
Indy, Tennessee, and so you're saying 3 out of the 4 teams are playoff teams.
I'm saying that 3 out of the 4 teams, 3 out of those 4 teams are, 2 of them are often in the playoffs.
You cannot.
2 of them are often in the playoffs.
You cannot have this roller coaster of a season and expect to be in the Super Bowl. You can't.
I completely agree.
I mean, this isn't the Patriots losing to the Kansas City Chiefs 41-12 on Monday night, and then they come back and win the Super Bowl that year. This isn't, we had a wake-up call. Your wake-up call was Jacksonville, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
That was your wake-up call.
And D-Mag, great comment. Until you can run the ball and beat cover 2 and stop the run and stop the penalties, you're absolutely right. Like Josh really struggled today getting through those zone coverages, like really struggled getting through them. You didn't even make an attempt to run the football because you were down so much. This team, like, there's teams that struggle to get their identity. Like Tampa last year at the beginning of the season, they really struggled. They struggled with personnel, but they ended up getting Leonard Fournette, and then everything came together for them after they got Fournette, right? Because they finally had the ability to run the football. They could be a more balanced team, and that's when things took off for them, right? But they played the personnel game for a long time because they didn't exactly understand their identity yet, right? This team has no excuse for that. It's the same players as last year. You cannot struggle with identity now when it's an incumbent team. It's the same team.
Sanders is the only change.
Right. And to be honest, he makes your offense markedly better. But you still, this is not Buffalo trying to figure out their identity. This is Buffalo just straight fucking it up. That's what it is. Like, I know I never swear. I never swear on this channel. But this is your team just missing opportunities and being poorly coached. Or you're allowing your quarterback to do things, that he shouldn't do, which ultimately comes back to he's poorly coached. Right? Like that's the deal. That's where you are right now. You cannot lose these football games like this because this isn't an identity issue. This is a pure coaching and execution issue. What?
Thomas Camp. Thomas Camp is the MVP for tonight because I just looked. He says this is the 2004 Bills. So what did I decide to do? I'll look up the 04 Bills. I got nothing else to do. 7th in points for, 8th in points against. They went 9-7. How are you in the top 10? This was Bledsoe.
Oh, the Bledsoe Bills?
This was the Pittsburgh Steelers playing the Pittsburgh Steelers backups at the end of the year
they
losing.
Lost. Yep.
So what you decided to do at this time, the Buffalo Bills, they were 3-6. They lost 29-6 to the New England Patriots to make them 3-6. They decided to rattle off 6 consecutive wins to go 9-6, and you had to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers backups.
Tommy Maddox. Was this the Tommy Maddox game?
This was Tommy Maddox. This was
Tommy Maddox.
This was a young
Willie
Parker. Yep.
Willie Parker,
and
Tommy Maddox.
29-24. I was at that game until halftime.
I remember Willie Parker looked like Jonathan Taylor. Like Willie Parker just ran all over us.
Oh my God.
Just ran
Thomas
all over
Camp,
us.
You the real MVP. I appreciate you, man. They started off 0-4 and finished 9-7.
I
What the what?
No, man. I don't. So Mar, if you're the coaching staff, right?
Yes.
You have to respond. I think at some point you have to fire somebody. Right? You have to fire somebody.
Oh.
You got to do it. Mario, this can't continue.
Is Bobby Johnson?
I think it is, right? At some point, you
wait a
have to
minute.
just say, we can't, this is not sustainable. We can't do anything about it from a personnel standpoint anymore. Like you could blame Beane and McDermott and the front office for not bringing in other players, but you're too deep into that right now to be able to do anything about it. So what's the next best thing? You got to start letting some people go. Like you got to change the dynamic because this dynamic doesn't work. Whatever it is, it ain't working. So you got to find that squeaky wheel and you got to take it. You got to take it to the shop and you got to get that damn thing cut off and put on a new one. And you got to look at firing somebody at some point. It's just, I know it doesn't fit the culture, Mar. It doesn't fit the culture. But what it does do is it says we will not accept excuses for play like this. And that's something we've never heard from this team. If we've gone back to the bag of tricks, right, to get this team back online a bunch of times this season. Yeah. And at some point, that bag's empty. You've used all your tricks. And that's when personnel that's when you start firing personnel. You've got to be close to that right now.
I think if you lose another week, you're done.
If you lose another week, dude, you might not even make the playoffs.
I understand that, Paul. But it is an NFC game.
All right, let me ask you this.
I'm just messing around with you.
Let me ask you this. If the game wasn't on Thursday, would you fire a coach? The work's already done. If you're going to fire a position coach, you do it now. The work's already done for Thursday, right? That was this week in practice. The work's already done.
No, you don't do it. You don't do it before Thursday game. You do it after.
Why?
You do it immediately after the Thursday game.
Win or lose?
You give them one more repeat. Oh, that's a good question. I think you give them one more reprieve from the governor because it depends on who you're firing, Paul. Is it OG Bobby Johnson or is it Eric Washington?
It's one of these guys. Mar, it's just at some level, it doesn't matter, right?
Paul,
at some level, it doesn't matter.
Here's my point. I think the defensive line has failed more than the offensive line. And that might be a
talent at both levels. It really is.
No, they are. They are both failing. But my point is I would think that the defensive line, in my opinion, failed you more today than the offensive line did. And overall, maybe not so much when they're healthy. But here's the caveat. Here's the little crazy part. Eric Washington has worked with McDermott before. Eric Washington, when McDermott left, was the defensive coordinator for Carolina. If Frazier happens to leave, why would you fire him? He's your guy. So
that's what I mean.
That's what I'm saying. You were more likely to fire OG Bobby Johnson at this point, even though I think the defensive line has failed you more than the offensive line.
And I just want to be clear, right? I'm not stating that I feel like there's enough reason to fire somebody. I'm not in the building, right? Mar, I think you agree with me there. We're not in the building.
You're talking about the history of what has happened with teams that have this much talent, this much expectation, and they're not meeting that expectation. Somebody has to be held accountable. You've shuffled players in and out. Right. Now it's on the staff.
Well, and it's weird, right? Because there is a point where it is, because I see Spin mentions it's scapegoating, and he's absolutely right. Like at some point it is just a scapegoat. But there's also been with this staff, you have two possible head coach candidates who they're not going to be head coach candidates if you continue to play like this.
No.
Right. So you as a coordinator have to be able to walk into an interview this offseason and say, yeah, things weren't working. I identified this issue, and we cut the head off the snake, and we were able to recover the season. Nobody will blame you for firing your position coach and still losing. Like it's already bad, right?
Mm-mm.
It already looks bad on you. But if you fire a position coach and it works out, now you got a feather in your cap to say, listen, I saw the personnel problem and I fixed it. It.
Who do
head
you fire?
coach material.
Who are you firing?
I don't think there's any way you can look at this offense and say that the offensive line play has been acceptable, regardless of the health. I think that's more of a talent issue. I think it's more of a talent issue than it is anything else. I really do believe it's personnel, but I don't think that saves a position coach's job. Paul, and to all those people saying that you can't fire coaches in the middle of the season, you damn well can, right? You absolutely can.
The Ravens did it.
The Ravens did, and they won the Super Bowl, right?
Yes,
but that was an offensive coordinator. The Bills are not going to let Dable go. So let's just be clear about it.
Who did they fire? Jim Caldwell, or Jim Caldwell came in?
I
can't remember. I don't know. I don't pay attention to the Ravens. I don't care. I'm usually a historian of the game, but I really don't care about the Ravens at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. That is so interesting that you part ways with OG Bobby Johnson in that respect.
Hold on one second. Vita has a great point.
Where's Vita? I got it. I'll do it. Where's Vita? Ooh.
That's a good point.
I can't see McDermott scapegoating someone after Reed scapegoated him.
That's a good point right there.
Vita, right. We're accepting applications for employment. But that is great. No, but here's the deal. And I have my counter argument to that, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, show chat. I want to show my chat. Okay. That's a great point. But Mike Holmgren, when he was coaching, he was a coordinator. He said he used to see Bill Walsh yell at certain players, yell at certain coaches, and treat his coaches. So the way that Bill Walsh would do it is he would yell at the coordinator to try to get the player to play better, because the player then would feel bad. Yeah, my position coach is getting yelled at for my mistake, blah, blah, blah. And then Holmgren said, hey, if I ever become a head coach, I'm not doing that. And then he goes, I'll be damned if I didn't freaking do that, because why? It works.
Right.
After Reed scapegoated, you don't know what you're going to do unless you're in that position. Reed scapegoated McDermott. That's the business.
Right.
If McDermott's sitting there going, wow, I could see why Reed did this to me now, or else my ass is on the line. Right. I have to get rid of somebody. So while
the difference was, I don't think McDermott was fired till after the season.
No, that's true. But I agree for both points. Cam Cameron, thank you, Naveed, about the
Baltimore that's who it was. Yeah, Cameron, the Baltimore Ravens. It was Cam Cameron.
I agree wholeheartedly with your point, Vita, but I could see why McDermott, after being a head coach for a few years, is like, wow, I know why Reed did what he did. I know exactly why Andy did what he did. Wow. That's awesome. And Cam Cameron. Thank you, Naveed. I appreciate that, bud. Bobby Johnson said that. Oh, Trust Process says Bobby Johnson said that we would be fine at the beginning of the season and did not make moves. True. It's his fault. We didn't. Bobby Johnson isn't the end all be all of having to make moves for the team. Yeah. Like it's up to Beane and McDermott to okay those moves that he wants. Hey, but Paul, Bobby Hart's back. I tried to catch you while you were drinking, so you'd spit it all out and have Thin Mints everywhere.
Bobby Hart. Jeez. But this is where we are. This is where we are. And
Paul,
it's a
is
scary
the sky
world.
falling? Let's talk to Hashtag Nation directly. You and me having a conversation, but we're talking to the nation. Is the sky falling in Buffalo?
So
is there a panic button to be hit? I'm sorry.
I am pushing the panic button a little bit because the last post game I said that Indy's going to do things to you that you don't do well. Right, they're going to run the football on you, and you don't stop the run very well, regardless of what the ranking was. Right.
So that's a week ago.
Right. Now, with that being said, right, you also have the Saints who have to run the football, right? Because they can barely throw it.
So bad.
You have the Patriots who have a rookie quarterback and who run the ball enough to do damage there. Although, Mac Jones hasn't been bad. But
Brady 2.0, dude.
He's a 200-yard passer every game. That's it. He's going to throw for 200 on you, and they're going to run the football enough to keep you off Mac Jones long enough, right? That's the whole idea there. Then you're going into Tampa, who Brady will just if you're giving up. You think Brady's not going to take a day off at the office to go 11-20 for 106 yards and beat you by 30? Like Brady's going to take the day off, right? Like,
he will.
And then you have the Panthers, who again, McCaffrey's back. They can only run the ball or throw it to McCaffrey. Their offense is inept afterwards.
What about
right?
Cam?
And then are you okay? Never mind. And then don't worry about Cam. Don't worry about Cam. And then you have I wouldn't worry about that little guy. And then you have the Patriots again. Like this is the gauntlet for you. I do think the sky's falling a little bit because you can't let what happened to you today happen ever again this year. And you can't let that happen to you in the run game because that's what these teams do best is they're going to take what is your weakness and they're going to exploit it. Sean Payton's he's drooling after what he just saw this week. The Patriots, Belichick is drooling, Brady, these guys don't miss that stuff. So you're running up against teams that only can run the football. The Buccaneers, that's an oversimplification. But if they only have to run the football, they'll only run the football. Like they're not shy. They're not going to throw it 45 times if you're giving up 200 on the ground. They're not going to throw it 45 times. Like this is the murderer's row of this schedule for you. And at the beginning of the season, we all looked at, the Bills have the 27th ranked strength of schedule the rest of the season. Okay. But they all do things that we don't do.
Well, here's the craziest part. Here's what I always come back to. This season more than any other, and by the way, Triggs, I'm leaving that on for the remainder of the episode. What breaks my heart is watching Duggar and Chin play great. Paul, what did we talk about? Oh,
God, we were just talking about this.
We literally just talked about the 2020 draft right before this, Triggs. The Bills are 6-4, and they have 7 games left. Mm-hmm. They played the Saints, the Patriots twice, the Bucks and the Panthers, the Falcons and the Jets. Okay. Mm-hmm. Paul, I'm not even comfortable penciling in the Falcons and the Jets as wins at this point. But if we need some material. Here's what I want to do. Falcons and Jets. Okay. Bills are 6-4 right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
8-4. Those two are wins.
Okay.
Patriots,
Falcons and Jets.
Yep. Panthers,
okay. 8-4.
Panthers 9-4.
Okay.
The two Pats games, you know what I always do? They always split.
You split. Yep. Okay.
Okay. So they're 10-5.
10-5.
Saints and Bucks split. 11-6. Does this team make the playoffs at 11-6? Because in that, you only have one more loss in the conference and one loss in the division. So you're 5-1 in the division. You're 11-5 in the conference. Or no, I'm sorry, not 11. Sorry about that. You only have 5 losses in the conference. Mm-hmm. You make the playoffs?
I think
people were touting this team at. People were touting this team at 14-3.
I think the only way you make the playoffs, Mar, is if you win the division. Like I know that the wild card teams are fun, but it's an extra game that you don't want to play, right? It's a game you don't want to play.
No,
it just makes your season harder, right?
Oh my God.
So to answer that, right, I want to go to the Patriots schedule and look at what they have coming up, right? Because the truth of the matter is, it's a race to the division. That's what you can focus on. It's not about making the wild card. It is you win your division, or you luckily made the playoffs, dropping only AFC games all season, right? That's look at the team. Look at the games that you're looking at. The Bills could possibly lose. Only one of them is against the NFC. So I mean, you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball when it comes to those wild card spots. If it has to come down to tiebreakers. So let's look at the rest of the Patriots schedule. They play the Titans next with no Derrick Henry. He will not be back by then. No Julio Jones. He's still on IR.
AJ Brown went out today too.
Okay. Sure.
I mean,
everything's coming up.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And then, so we assume Patriots are going to win that game. We're assuming a split with the Bills, right? So that's going to put them at 2-1. Yeah. They play the Colts. There is no way on God's green earth that Colts team is going to beat the Patriots.
You don't think so?
Nope. I like Jonathan Taylor an awful lot. An awful lot.
I will
I liked
bet you
him
on that.
long before that. I'll bet you on that. So you think the
I'll
Colts
bet you
beat
gas
the
station
Patriots?
chicken wings cold in the morning on that. I would definitely bet you. No, I
Ooh.
think that I am not see, here's the craziest part. And this is not a knock on you, Paul. Please do not think this is a knock on you. I love the Colts coaching staff from top to bottom. I love what they do. If there's any coaching staff that's going to match wits with Belichick, maybe not match ethnic values or ethical values in the
Ethical
game.
values.
Ethical
Definitely
values.
not ethnic values. He's
He's
a math teacher, everybody. He's a math
This is
teacher.
true. Not I'm talking about ethical values in the game. I'm talking about wits. I could see Wright going head to head with Belichick.
I disagree there,
Okay.
simply because I just don't think Carson Wentz is strong enough to be able to navigate that game. But I guess you never know, right? So let's just, for argument's sake, say the Patriots even lose that game. Okay. So that puts them at 2-2.
No, put them at 3-1. No, because
3-1. Okay, well then,
baby.
Yep. Then they play the Jags and they play the Dolphins.
Jesus Christ.
That's what I'm saying. There's reason, unless the Bills beat the Patriots twice, they will not win the division. The path isn't there for them.
Here's my question.
You have to beat the Patriots twice to win the division.
The Bills could beat the Patriots twice and still lose the division.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You drop the other games. Absolutely. Of course you can.
Exactly. If they go, they go 11-6, but go 6-0 in the division.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're going to be talking about the Buffalo Bills being the first team to miss the playoffs, going 6-0 in their own division.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Isn't that pathetic?
Yeah.
What?
It's totally possible. It's totally possible. And that's what I mean. Like there's got to be, we've preached culture. We've preached the process. Like we've been good soldiers and we've all drank the Kool-Aid, but at some point you got to look at what you've built and say, have I done a good enough job to make my team as dynamic as possible? And we have a lot of players who can do a lot of things. They're a very versatile team, but that's what they're versatile. They're versatile, but they get outmanned. Right. At some point, it's a talent. I know we talk about in college, it's always talent on talent, you know, and that's why Alabama beats the piss out of everybody they play. And that's why larger schools, like even LSU, like that's why they can outman a lot of teams in their conference, because they just get better athletes than everybody else. And at some level in the NFL, it is about that too. And Buffalo has always done a great job of taking the best athlete at the position. Right. But look what's behind them. What's behind them is not the best athlete they can get, right? It's not. It's the most versatile player who can fill enough roles for us. Like I thought Obata looked like absolute ass today, and he could play two positions for you, right? I thought Butler looked like ass today. He can only play DT for you. He's really kind of out.
Butler should not play another down for the Buffalo Bills.
Right, but what I'm saying is that they've built, like AJ Klein again. AJ Klein looked really bad today. You know, but Matt Milano never looked good. Like there were a lot of things that didn't go well today. But the question for me remains, when your athletes aren't there anymore, is your team able to withstand that loss? And the depth on this team tells you no. They have a lot of really versatile players that you can move all over the place. And that's great to plug the hole in the boat for a drive or two. But you're not going to make multiple games missing starters on this team right now. You know, like
no, you're not.
You didn't do it. Like you just didn't approach it the right way.
No. And let me be clear, ladies and gentlemen of Hashtag Nation, because we've come to that time. Talent wise, I believe that the Buffalo Bills could go 7-0 to finish out the season.
Okay.
Talent wise, they get their guys back. They play to their. I really feel that of the 7 games left on the schedule, Patriots twice, Bucks, Saints, Panthers, Falcons, and Jets. You play your best game. They play their best game. Bills will win. I firmly believe that.
I do agree.
Triggs, I hate you for putting that thought in my head that I tried to get rid of 2 years ago. Could you imagine Milano, Edmonds, and Duggar or Chin? I've slept on that many a night before the draft. It's happened. I think if you get some guys back, as far as Edmonds, as far as Spencer Brown. You're going to see a very different offense. You're going to see a very different team. Do the Bills need to fire somebody? Paul, we know this is a business more than anybody. And we also know more than anything, it's any given Sunday, especially this season.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the Bills could conceivably go 12-5 and miss the playoffs.
Yeah, it's totally possible.
It is,
yeah,
which
totally
is
possible.
crazy because they'll be a part of a stat that's going to live forever. The fact that you
sure would.
Who was the only 12-win team not to make the playoffs?
Mm-hmm.
But with as crazy as the NFL has been this year, you don't know what's going to happen with other teams. The Titans could fall off without Henry.
Mm-hmm.
They could be a team that falls off. Pittsburgh could fall off.
Yep.
The Browns are Jekyll and Hyde too.
They're hanging on by a thread. They're hanging on by a thread right now.
Here's the thing. Do you feel confident with this team moving forward, making the playoffs and making a run as a if they're 100% healthy at the end of the season? Do you feel confident in that, Paul?
With as much of an aggressive game of ping pong as this season has been, I think it's really hard to trust that you're going to be able to put 9 weeks together in a row to win a Super Bowl right now. Yeah, I mean, realistically, Mar, that's what you're looking at, right? You got what, 9 games to win the Super Bowl? You got 9 games, if I'm doing the math correctly, right?
7, 8, 9, 10. You need 10.
10 games?
You have 7 games left in the
well, yeah, because they're not going to get a first round bye. Yeah, because they're not going to get a first round bye.
So then you get 2
10 games.
2 to get to the bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, wait. You got a wild card, divisional, conference, and then and 4. You got to win 11.
Yeah. Do you think the Bills are capable of only losing 2 of those? I mean, that's what you got. That's where you are.
The Bucks
right
and
now.
the Patriots. That's what I think. I think you're going to beat the Saints.
I think they'll beat the Saints too. I do. Yeah. I think they'll beat
Bucks
the Saints.
and I think you lose to the Bucks and the Pats, and you can go conceivably.
You got to run the table after that,
and you got to go 9-2.
Yeah, and they haven't been able to put 4 games together in a row that looked
they haven't.
But that's what I'm saying is that you know, if there's 11 games, if you drop every 4th game, you'll be all right. You'll get there, right? But that you can't. I mean,
John
I don't know.
Paul O'Keefe comes in. He says you can't feel confident in any AFC team right now if you really think about it. No,
that's true.
You can't.
That's true.
Every amateur YouTuber that's talking about their team today has had the same narrative. We thought we were going to win, but we got piss pounded. What the hell?
What are you going to do? It's as tumultuous a time as I can remember as a Bills fan because it's a different perspective, right? Before it was, I hope they can win. Now it is, I expect them to win, and I just
when they
hope
lose,
it's bad. Yeah,
we are pretenders, not contenders. Thomas Sweeney, is this the actual Tommy Sweeney?
Not that Tommy Sweeney.
I wouldn't do that, Tommy. I mean, we're known from coast to coast like Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, but that's about as far as we reach. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining the hashtag sports presentation of the Buffalo Bills versus Indianapolis Colts post game. Thank you for joining Joe earlier today with his play-by-play and the Friday night tailgate with Tommy and Mike.
I do want to bring up real quick. Joe had to end the stream early. There was something that came up at home. It was kind of urgent. Everything's okay. So for those of you who are watching Joe live, everything's totally fine. Something came up. It was kind of urgent, but everybody's okay. Everything's fine. So for those of you who were a little concerned, everything's totally fine. So no worries there. We also want to make sure that we thank our sponsor, Sean, Mr. Rogers Homes.
Yes, Mr. Rogers Homes, the top 1% realtor in the Valley of the Sun. In the description of this video, you will see his brochure. If you're thinking about going out to Arizona, getting some real estate, Sean is your guy. Tell him Paul and Mario sent you. But for me, thank you, McChicken. Paul's here too. You know, he carries the show, man. I put the team on my back. We want to thank you guys for joining us. Hashtag Nation. We always love when you guys join our stuff. Paul, I will say this. I'm going to put you on the spot. We need to be in the car soon.
Oh, God, please.
Okay. Daniel, what's up, buddy? You guys, thank you for joining the stream tonight. Buffalo Bills lose 41-15 to Indianapolis Colts, drop to 6-4 overall. They're still undefeated in division as far as I'm concerned. They're 3-0, and they have the Pats 2 out of the next 3 games. Hopefully they could take care of the Saints on Thursday. Paul and I will be here to give you your post game on Thursday.
Yep.
on your turkey day when you have the tryptophan coma, so you can at least listen to us. So
Mar, let me ask you before you go, what is your Thanksgiving Day clutch play? Like the thing on Thanksgiving, you're like, it's clutch every year. What's your Thanksgiving Day? You got one dish that you got to nail. What's the one dish? What's your clutch dish?
cooking, or I have to have?
I'll take either.
I love my homemade mac and cheese.
Okay.
I make homemade mac and cheese, but I love when you finally make your plate and it's completely covered. It's the mashed potatoes, peas, and corn. You mix all together with the gravy. You
Okay.
just mix all that shit together. What
All
about
right.
yours?
So we deep fry our turkey every year.
Yes,
And I would say the clutch play is we take stuffing, right? Because we can't put the stuffing inside the turkey when you deep fry it, right? It just turns into a brick. You can't deep fry stuffing for you can't deep fry stuffing for an hour and a half.
Green
right?
bean casserole, nice.
Yeah. But the clutch play is we take the stuffing and we just add a couple eggs to the stuffing, and you ball them up into balls like meatballs, and then you deep fry those. Oh my God. Deep fried stuffing balls are clutch. Mario, they are the most delicious that you just take normal stuff, you just toss in a couple eggs, and then you just turn them into big meatballs and drop them in there 5-6 minutes, and you've got the most deliciously bad thing for you. Because think about it, it's just oil and carbs. That's all there is to it. And
from a guy who lives at Paula's Donuts, I don't think you care about that.
You're right. That's fair.
Oh, I did not get the 250 on accident. I'm gonna need a set of 5 of those to bring them back to my house for the kids. Roll them about the size of a softball, and then
they're so good, Mar. They're so
phenomenal. That's great. Hashtag Nation, send us your pics of your deep fried stuffing balls so we can send them to Paul.
Hey, they're pretty solid. Pumpkin spice donuts.
How dare you?
Mute.
No, we're not muting Naveed. But honestly, thank you for joining us for the post game. We'll catch you later this week. Paul's gonna have his morning coffee. Joe's gonna have his razor sharp picks, and then you will also see the Friday night. Or actually, no, we're not gonna have the Friday night tale. It'll probably be on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'll talk to Tommy and Mike. I don't know what day they're doing it.
Yeah. You guys see, we collaborate even while we're on live. So for Paul, I'm Mario. Thank you for joining the Hashtag Sports presentation. We love you guys. Take it easy. Hashtag Nation.
Later, everybody.